Welcome to Leading with Empathy and Allyship, where we have deep, real conversations to build empathy for one another and to take action to be more inclusive and to lead the change in our workplaces and communities. I'm Melinda Briana Epler, founder and CEO of Change Catalyst and author of How to Be an Ally. I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion speaker, advocate, and advisor. You can learn more about my work and sign up to join us for a live recording at ally.cc. All right, let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. I am Ritu Bhasin, she, her, hers. I'm president and founder of Bhasin Consulting, Inc., BCI for short, which is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm that's focused on building more inclusive, authentic, and empowered workplaces. Today, we will have a panel discussion to learn more about the concept of allyship. And it is my pleasure to be the host of the launch party for Melinda Briana Epler's new book, How to Be an Ally, Actions You Can Take for a Stronger, Happier Workplace. I wanted to let you know that I am a brown woman. My parents are from India. I have long black hair and beautiful brown skin. I finally wanted to mention that I am joining you today from my home in Toronto, Canada. And I wanted to take a moment to just honor the fact that Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas, a treaty that brought these communities together to serve and to honor and to protect these lands. And we have all been invited into this treaty with the same spirit. And I share this with you as part of my personal commitment to truth and reconciliation and healing with the Indigenous peoples of this land we now know to be Canada. I hope that all of the work that I do, all of my actions are in furtherance of this, including my participation in this launch party this evening. And so this is your day, Melinda. So, okay, let me just take a pause here. And I just want to say a few things about you professionally. I'm sure that everyone here knows who you are. As you know, Melinda is known for being a prominent TED speaker. I just looked this up just earlier this afternoon, 2.5 million hits almost on your TED talk on allyship, which is amazing. You'll know Melinda as being a DEI expert. You'll know her as a global speaker, storyteller, advocate for change. She has been in the innovation and strategy game for 25 years. But most of all, Melinda is a beautiful human being. She's beautiful inside and out. She is kind. She is empathetic. She is authentic. She is a beautiful soul. And now she's also officially an author. So it is an honor to work with her, to know her, to introduce her, and to join her today for this launch event. So hi, Melinda.
Hello. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh, bless.
Thank you. Yes, good.
Well, I was going to say, how are you feeling? How are you doing in this moment?
I'm really excited. I'm excited. There's a lot of you all actually have tweeted or posted about receiving your book today, which is really cool. And I'm excited for this book to be out there in the world, creating change for all of us. Over the years, the last few years, I've learned from thousands of people what allyship means for them. We did it. We've released a state of allyship report, which really goes deep into some research that we did around what allyship means for them. Also, intimately interviewed about 50 different people as research for the book, and then conducted a literature of more than 300 articles and books. Did a lot of reading and a lot of searching, and then so many colleagues, several of whom are here, provided me with invaluable feedback, including Ritu actually, and so also acknowledging that this is a journey. Allyship is a journey, and while I've dedicated my life and my work to this, my knowledge isn't perfect, and I'm not a perfect human, and nobody's a perfect ally. We all have work to do. We all have room to grow, and it's a continuous journey. So and also the language and understanding is constantly evolving too. So there's just always more room to learn. And so I really wrote this book for all of us to learn about each other, to build empathy for each other, and to take action for each other. I personally believe the world needs a lot more empathy. We need to be more empathetic for each other, and it's the lack of empathy, a lack of compassionate empathy is why we have some of the big systemic issues that we have, where from climate change and environmental injustice to workplace disparity to the wealth gap, the health gap, to the institutional systemic discrimination throughout, from our education systems to our healthcare systems to our justice systems to workplace systems and so on. And our financial systems are inequitable. And I really believe that when we have more empathy for each other, when we take action on that empathy, which is allyship, which is advocacy, which is being an accomplice, which is activism, which you and several of us are doing as well.
Melinda, in this moment, we actually have a mix of people joining us today. I suspect that there are some people on today who have a very in-depth knowledge and awareness of what allyship is. Others on joining us today to celebrate you and your book may be newer in their journeys in understanding allyship. But let me just pause here for a moment here, Melinda, on it's hard to write a book, period, let alone to write a book in the midst of a pandemic, when it is so emotionally taxing. It's practical, it's data-driven. It's truly excellent. I'm so excited about your book for myriad reasons. So turning it to you to kick off our panel.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, you all know Ritu, so she needs no introduction. I think you introduce yourself. And thank you to my friends, Tiffany and Rachel, who will be speaking a little bit later, and to my husband, Wayne Sutton, here as well, who's also going to be speaking, and he's just been with me on this journey the whole way. So I want to invite Tiffany and Rachel to join me, as well as Wayne. Hi. So Tiffany and I met, well, I think we met via social media and or email, and then we finally met in person maybe a year after that, something like that, because you were in New York and I was here. And Tiffany runs an amazing organization called Diversibility, and you all need to check it out and support it. She does some really amazing advocacy and activist work in that space, in the space of creating change and creating inclusion for people with disabilities. And I have learned a ton from her. And then, and by the way, these are all dear friends of mine. I'm so happy to have you all here. So Rachel Williams is, we go back to early 2015, I think, maybe late 2014, early 2015, where we sat in a booth and at Yelp and had discussions about the state of tech and how we were going to solve them together, right? And I think when we had that conversation, we thought by this point we would have solved it. Well, I mean, we have it in our head, solved it, but there's a whole, all the people that need to change in order to make that happen, right?
Mm-hmm. So
yeah. And then Wayne Sutton, who is my husband, partner, best friend, greatest ally, all of the things, and is my co-founder at Change Catalyst, and also the founder of the Icon Project, and does incredible things, and has for his entire life. So thank you all for being here. Yeah, and celebrating with me, and I for all of you, I want this to be interactive thing. So while I'm going to ask our panelists to verbally talk about their experiences, I'm going to ask you all to share yours in the chat too, because I want to know, and I would love to have this be a community conversation. Cool. So one thing we should do just really quickly for anybody who is blind or low vision and or on the phone can't see us, if we could just really quickly go around and just describe ourselves. So I'm a white woman with long red hair, black and white glasses, and I have a turquoise-ish shirt on, sleeveless shirt on. And Ritu already did. So Rachel?
All right. Dark chocolate brown woman with long black hair. Got some glasses on and a cute pink Oxford shirt so I can pop my collar.
Tiffany?
Hi, everyone. Tiffany Yu, pronoun she, her, and I am a Taiwanese American woman with very long black pandemic hair that I have learned how to curl with one hand because one of my arms is paralyzed, which you can't see. And I am wearing a navy blue sweatshirt that I'm very proud of. And it says, disability repeated a bunch of times is not a bad word. And we're actually doing just a small fundraising campaign for Diversability right now with this message. If anyone wants to be a walking billboard with me, I will, shameless plug, put a link to it in the chat as well.
Count me in, sister.
Me too. Me too.
Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody on the team can investigate that and put that on. Thank you. Me?
Humans. Wayne Sutton. I am a pecan brown skin, black African man, wearing black glasses, a black t-shirt with brown eyes, with white AirPods in my ear, standing up on the Zoom. Hi.
Awesome. So I just have a few questions. And the first is, what does allyship mean to you? What does allyship mean to you? Why is it important?
You're calling us?
I'm not. This is a community conversation where you all take initiative and say it when you feel it.
Okay, so since I opened my big mouth, let's see. Allyship to me means safety, means amplification. It means that I have a partner or someone looking out for me in the room when I'm not in the room. It's been so important in my life. I didn't even have the word for it before. I was calling it a sponsor, which I think, on some levels there is sponsorship, but I think the action of sponsorship is allyship. I think, the two go hand in hand. And I'm so grateful to the allies who have stepped up to correct someone or to defend me or to amplify something I've said or just make a path and create a path for me. So it means safety. And when I feel safe, then I can be authentic. I can give the brilliance that's rumbling around in my head. The imposter syndrome seems to decrease. And, I think companies ultimately get the best out of me. So allyship means a lot.
This is Tiffany. I will amplify both what Melinda said in terms of empathy and action. And I can't wait to share my little examples, but I'll wait to do that. And what Rachel said in terms of safety. But I will also add, for me, it is the idea of what it truly feels like to be seen. And I think that can mean a lot of different things to people. But for me, it's, can I be validated in my experience, even if you don't understand it? Without, and this is where the safety comes in, without fear of retribution or retaliation, or it's just, can I just be who I am without fear?
I would say that like what Tiffany just shared really resonates for me as well, like resonates with me. I was thinking about allyship from the perspective of how do I make others feel based on how I act and what I say and what my nonverbal communication is like in your midst and the words I use. But on the receiving end for me, when I am experiencing allyship, it goes back to I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel honored. I feel like you see the humanity in me because you understand the humanity in you and the importance of creating a world where we can all honor each other. I think that is so important and really stands out to me as it relates to what allyship is about.
Well,
this
for
is
me, go ahead, Tiffany.
I just wanted to add one other thing. So all of us are on this learning journey, and actually, Ritu, what came up when you reflected back to me what I said is that I think many of us are moving to understand that it's really not about the intention, it's about the impact, right? And then focusing on that impact, like how do other people feel when they're around you? Like that is that act of allyship.
Yes. It's interesting because as human beings, we are animals. And I think we forget that because we're so sophisticated because we have Zoom and iPhone and Uber and yada, yada. But we're animals at the end of the day. And as animals, we're governed by our nervous systems. And Melinda, like you would know this so profoundly from all of your yoga and mindfulness work as well, that our nervous systems deeply desire to co-regulate with other people. And we want to feel good in people's midst. Like we want to feel safe as has been shared. And allyship, through our actions, we help other people's nervous systems calm and settle and feel and flow so that we can best think and share and be authentic, and we can synthesize information more accurately, and we can exercise compassion and empathy. Like all of this goes back to our nervous systems and how we feel and others feel based on the acts of allyship that are around us.
Yeah, I'm gonna say allyship means to me like first, what does the book say? but plus one of what everyone has said, but and to me it's like allyship means like it's something super simple, but it's doing the right thing. But doing the right thing, being mindful of your own safety, your own mind, your own state of being, right? Like how you doing the right thing, trying to correct injustice, trying to help someone out, trying to support someone, trying to advocate on someone's behalf, trying to, go back to what Melinda said a lot about empathy, like whether it's workplace environment, whether it's walking down the street, whether it's in the store, whether it's like, police violence or racial injustice, or, how can you, in that moment, being mindful of your own well-being and safety, as others have said, be an ally, or even being mindful of taking risk and being an ally for someone in that moment to correct any type of wrong injustice that's happening in the world.
You all are amazing. We have so many people who are doing this work here on this call. Would you please drop in the chat? I mean, Karen, what does allyship mean to you? Jennifer, what does allyship mean to you? Julie, Cynthia, Natalia, all of you are working on this amazing work, doing amazing work. For Max, I see you. What does allyship mean to each of you? I would love to know. And I think it would be really powerful to know. And anybody else chime in. I just kind of called out my colleagues. Mhm. And as you're thinking, and Lisa, I see you here too. So many folks that are doing this work. Yeah, Cynthia, having somebody's back, especially when they're not around. Yeah. Joining any capital I have, social, professional capital, with someone else for the purpose of building greater equity. Awesome. Karen, using our position of privilege to take action and open career doors, disrupt the status quo of racism, sexism, or other isms that are happening in our workplace. Yeah, empathy and action. Lisa, thank you. And Toki, I see you too. Natalia, honoring, centering, and building up marginalized and underrepresented people to ensure success, thriving, and that voices are heard and defended. Brian, taking the struggle on as our own and standing up and speaking up even when it's hard. Steve, helping make connections and endorsing. Awesome. Continue. I'm going to ask the next question, but yeah, love it. Thank you for sharing. So Tiffany, I know you already have one in your head, so I might count on you for this next one because you already said, when has an ally really stepped up for you? Give us a story. Tell the story. How did an ally impact your life?
Yeah, this is Tiffany. I'll share 2 examples. So one doesn't really have a resolution yet, but and then the other is a fun story that I'll share. So we have microaggressions, but I think we also have micro inclusions. And so when I think about allyship and how it is kind of manifesting, or the way that is the most prevalent for me right now, it is this empathy in action for people understanding that when I step outside and someone says, go back to where you came from, that pattern interrupt. And I see Karen here, and she has this question, what makes you think that? So being able to witness something like something microaggressive like that, being able to step in and do something about it. But having that empathy to understand that when I walk outside, I feel a level of a lack of safety that maybe Wayne, when Wayne steps outside, may feel a lack of safety, but in a different way. And it's kind of like being able to distinguish that. So that's kind of the first thing that I was thinking about when I thought about the answer to that question. But the other one I wanted to share, and I'm just smiling because it might be relevant or it might not be relevant. And so for people who are new to my work, I do a lot of work in the disability space, and I come into this work based on my own lived experience of having acquired a disability at the age of 9 as a result of a car accident. So one of my arms is paralyzed. And pre-pandemic, we always had these like dinner events and stuff, and my background was in finance. And networking dinners were a big thing. And so for me, what I actually found the most difficult about that environment is I didn't know how to pick my bread off of the bread basket when I came out. I didn't know how to cut my chicken or cut my steak, and I apologize to the vegetarians or the vegans when it came out. And so I would actually spend more time thinking about the logistics of how to eat my food rather than engage in the actual conversation that was happening. And I wanted to bring that up because one of the bigger professional opportunities that I've had in this work is I had the opportunity to go to Davos a couple of years ago, which is, you have a lot of CEOs and presidents and leaders in academia and social and civil society. And I was at this dinner I think it was called Human by Design, and it was talking about human-centered design. And I happened to be sitting at a table that was being facilitated by will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas. And so I'm sitting next to him totally by accident, and the chicken comes out, or whatever the meat dish is. And I'm literally just sitting there, like looking at it, like holding a knife to like try and just look like I'm trying to navigate it. And will.i.am sees what's happening, and he literally he's still facilitating the conversation. He pulls my plate over to his, and he literally just cuts my meat, conversation's still going, and then he pushes the plate back over to me. Mm-hmm. And I have shared this story publicly, so if anyone knows Will.i.am, I did tell him thank you. He probably doesn't remember, but it's something so small like that for him, cutting meat during an entree course probably doesn't mean that much. But for someone like me who has had to go to so many dinner events like that, even think about a buffet event, where there's not enough table space to like hold my plate. For me, that was such a beautiful display of, and Melinda and I have talked about like, what does non-performative allyship actually look like? And for me, it's no one's looking for some award at the end of the day that, he's not going around telling people that he cut my meat. I'm going around as the recipient of it, telling everyone how literally just something so small like that can be so meaningful. So I know I wanted to bring it up because I still think that one day we will return to dinners, and that's still a part of my own professional journey, right? Is this networking environment, even though it didn't happen, in a workplace environment. But I wanted to like bring that up as an example because it's all still part of this like one life that I'm experiencing. And I wanted to add one last point on that, which is I recently met up with a friend who, was having a hard time kind of thinking about what allyship looks like on the accomplice level, right? Like, what does it look like to actually disrupt the whole system? What does it look like to rebuild it equitably? And what I said to him is, we can spend time talking about those larger issues, but what I'm hoping you take away from this is maybe I'm not going to convince you what that roadmap to equity looks like, but can you understand that when we're having dinner together, I might need someone to help me cut my meat?
Thank you for sharing that.
I'll go. Melinda, we was talking about this last night. We was talking about Steve, who's watching. I think Steve's still here from Goodreads. That Steve was one of my very first allies when I moved to San Francisco. When I came to Silicon Valley first in 2011, I was running an accelerator, and we had some conflict, founder conflict, and we needed a different co-working space to work out of for our founders. And Steve heard of us. He saw what we were doing on social media, and he was like, he didn't know us from. It's not like we had dinner or had meetings, and like got to know Steve well. And he was like, "Y'all need a place to come work for your founders. Come use our space where we at." And it was about, I think about 10 or 15 of us. And this was back in 2011. And so you think there was a lack of diversity in tech now. Oh. In 2011, there was a real lack of diversity. So open this door and let 10, Black and brown founders, 10 or 15 of us in the co-working in his office space in downtown San Francisco, and that was a thing of allyship and support that I'll just never forget. And the other thing of allyship, something happened more recently, is that we've seen a lot of people step up and I say become. I don't want to use any word of slang, current terms people are using now, but people developed more empathy or became more aware or guilt or decided they want to impact humans doing the work around equity, inclusion, or unrepresented people in tech. And last year, Brad Fell reached out to me and say, I've seen the work you've been doing for years. I want to support your work, and with a grant for the ICON project to work around mental health. And so he did that last year. So we talk a lot about allyship in terms of actions. Money is action also. And so that was a great support that helped us out in getting ICON project relaunched. So that was just two examples. I see Steve there. Appreciate you, Steve.
Hey, Wayne. That was great to hear. It was awesome meeting you in those early days, and we had a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you.
It's great to be here now, and I can't wait to read the book
Thank you, Steve.
and review it on Goodreads, of course.
Of course, yes. If y'all don't know, that's where Steve is now. Awesome. What about you, Rachel?
I think you've probably heard this story, so hopefully there's somebody out there who hasn't. But the COO of Yelp really showed me early in my work what allyship was. When I got the call to rejoin Yelp to be their first head of diversity and inclusion, I was holding meetings with executives, no idea what we're going to talk about. It ended up being really helpful that we were talking about demographic numbers, and we were talking about latest research from Harvard or Stanford or somewhere. And then I would also share with them story time. But in the beginning, of course, this is 2014, folks really weren't knocking at my D&I door to come to these meetings. I think at that time it felt more punitive for a lot of folks. It felt, I'll leave it there. And so I had a chat with him about kind of my difficulties in getting executives to show up. I didn't want to make it mandatory because I knew the challenges around making anything mandatory in this work and the backlash that happens. And he knew the power he had. And I think that's a part of allyship, understanding your privilege in the context. And he knew his privilege in the context, that he was the COO of the company. People feared him and loved him. He had this kind of weird energy about that. And he told me, I'm going to show up to your meetings and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be present. And I kind of was like, wait, you need to say something. But I understand he didn't need to say anything. Him just showing up and being present, it drew all the leaders, because they're like, oh, Jeff's in that meeting? Jeff's coming? Jeff's there? If Jeff's there, then I'm there. And like, it started to be like, Rachel, you didn't send me an invite. And I'm like, I actually sent an invite to everybody. And over time, every single leader was coming to that meeting and having rich discussion around DEI. And Jeff really never said a word, honestly. He just knew that his presence, he lent me his presence, he lent me his influence. And that level of allyship, I hope to lend to someone else someday.
Melinda, would you like me to share?
I would love for you to share.
Well, Rachel, your story really resonates with me because I had something similar but different happen when I started my business 11 years ago. And so just by way of background, I'm actually a lawyer by training, and I practiced law for a few years, really hated it for myriad reasons, which I'm sure you've heard all about as it relates to the practice of law. Hello. And, but then I did HR for lawyers. So I worked for a large international firm where I was the HR leader on the lawyer side. I did that for several years. And along the journey of doing that HR work, having a front row seat to how inequities manifest in the legal profession, I really deeply became interested in doing DEI work. This is now over 11 years ago. And I decided I had to pull myself out of the legal profession, such a silo. So I decided to do an executive MBA. And at the tail end of the executive MBA, I ultimately left my firm to start my own consulting firm. But I was new, I was fresh, I was green. I needed to build a profile and name for myself. And there was an executive program at the University of Toronto at the business school, Rotman School of Management. And I wanted to teach desperately in that executive program because I knew it'd be great for my brand and profile and all of that. And one of my professors was connected with the program, a white man. And I was quite vocal in the classes I had with him. But anyhow, I approached him and said, I'd love to figure out how I can teach in the executive program. And long story short, he created a spot for me. He never said, I'm creating this spot because you're a woman or you're a woman of color from a religious minority group and we need you. But he created a spot despite all of the resistance to bring in an external nobody into the program to have me teach. And I taught in the program for 3 years. All the way along, he was an ally for me. And it had a profound impact on my career, because the moment I said I'm teaching at the Raman School of Management, people were like, oh, she must be legitimate, as opposed to everything else that I was doing to exhibit my excellence. Fine. Anywho, so that was profound. And I think about that moment often as it relates to allyship. I'm also going to throw out there, though, Melinda, for me, and I mean, I'm mindful of, like you talked about trauma earlier, like I'm very mindful of how I have internalized racism, and racial trauma lives in my body. I do a lot of work around it, like in the work that I teach and all the stuff I do online. I'm constantly talking about healing the racial trauma that we all possess as people of color, people who are Indigenous, in the face of white supremacy. And I would say to you, clear as a bell, moments of allyship stand out for me, but also what continues to stand out are the moments where I needed an ally and I didn't have one. And like those moments haunt me. They continue with me, as despite me doing my work, they're always there. But at the same time, I'm able to use those moments as a way for me to exercise empathy for others, to understand how I, through my actions, can help other people feel safe and at ease. And like that, Tiffany, your example of Will I Am is so beautiful. Like, it's a really good example of how someone is mindfully paying attention to the whole environment. So they're leading a conversation. He's leading a conversation. He's taking in information, he's guiding, but he's also got his eyes on everyone in the room. So he's empathetically taking in people's energy that he knows to do this. When we have had enough lived experience with a lack of allyship, it helps us to tune in and put ourselves into the shoes of others so that we can see, I should be cutting people's chicken. Going forward, let the takeaway, everyone, be after today, cut other people's chicken. Okay, that's the soundbite of this launch party. Start cutting chickens.
Oh, we could talk for hours, and we are over time, but I want to ask one final question. And if you could just share 3 words in this one. I know that's a challenge for all of us because we all do this work and we're in it. So what do you think about when you are working to be a good ally for each other? And we've established chicken. So what else? 3 words. What do you think about when you really are working to be a good ally?
Recognize my privilege.
Oh, yes. Oh,
It is.
I'm going to throw out there, I am love. And the reason being, I cannot love others unless I love myself.
Yes, I think about that often. Love is one of mine too. Yeah.
This is Tiffany. Those are not my 3 words. No, you're done. That's it. I can't distill it down to 3 words, or actually I can. Mistakes equals growth.
That's awesome.
Good one. Wayne? Word to Wayne.
You know, there's an introvert mind over just thinking.
I know. I saw it. I saw it. It was like a little computer going.
I was like thinking, wait, what's the question? I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. You know, plus one, you know, like what Melinda was saying earlier, I think of empathy. Think of, you know, safety is a big one for me, and I would say the other word is a hyphen, but it sounds like 2 words: self-awareness. You know, so and I think that's my big word, is because you know you have to be self-aware of what's happening, the why in the moment, what's going on, processing that. If you can in that moment, am I safe to operate? Am I safe to, you know, take action right here for me or the other person or the people I'm trying to be, you know, have empathy towards. And then try try to have empathy, and then from there, take action, as Melinda says in the book. So that's what I try to do.
And Michael and Michael, by the way, I did mention you earlier and your work on what I've learned from you around trauma and the body and all of that. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. And I love what you said in the chat, lead with vulnerability. Yeah. Thank you all. And anybody else? Yes, Julie, thank you. See, care, act. Awesome. Anybody else, please get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's okay for words, so I'll give you one. Cool. We could talk for hours, you all. We have talked for hours, and each of you has been an ally for me in lots of different ways throughout my knowing you. So I deeply appreciate all of you being here today, doing what you do, being an ally for me, and helping make the world a better place. Yeah.
Oh, bless Melinda. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the book. Yes, Rachel, so good. Thank you. So, in fact, let's take a moment. Let's all throw up our books, buy a copy, gift a copy, review the book, spread the good word, post about the book, everything you can to support Melinda in this moment and this great work. So thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Wayne, so much for joining Melinda and myself for this panel. We're very, very grateful. And thank you all for your beautiful comments in the chat board.
To learn more about this episode's topic, visit ally.cc. Allyship is a journey. It's a journey of self-exploration, learning, unlearning, healing, and taking consistent action. And the more we take action, the more we grow as leaders and transform our communities. So what action will you take today? Please share your actions and learning with us by emailing podcast@changecatalyst.co or on social media, because we'd love to hear from you. And thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel and share this. Let's keep building allies around the world. Leading with Empathy and Allyship is an original show by Change Catalyst, where we build inclusive innovation through training, consulting, and events. Thank you to my team, Juliet Roy and Be Your Change Media, Renzo Santos, Araya April, Christina Swindlehurst-Chan, and Emily Moss. Appreciate you listening to our show and taking action as an ally. See you next week.